Welcome back to Wealth Be Hers, and we have a repeat guest, and I don't think you'll be sad, so don't turn it off just because it's like, "Oh, I know Krisstina Wise." We're not gonna no, we're talking about something different this year. This day, this year, back in '23 that we talked the first time, December 2023. So a lot of time has passed that I didn't realize. It feels like I talk to Christine on a regular basis, which I feel very connected. I really do. And she sent out a newsletter. Well, first of all, Christina's from her company's Wealthy, and we'll get into that. But she sent out a newsletter at the end of last year that talked about her struggles. And it was with that that I realized, like, we need to talk again. I want us to talk about the hard part of investing, the hard part of being in business, the hard part about being women, which most of us already know that part. But you hear about all the good stuff about investing and how you're going to make this money and that money and that money, but there's some ugliness in the whole thing. So that's what we're going to talk about, you guys. Christina, thank you for joining me and thank you for sharing that newsletter and agreeing to come on and share this with everybody who doesn't read your newsletter yet.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for reading the newsletter. 'Cause I never know. I really write these things. I write my newsletters really. I mean, I write them. I don't use AI. And, I just really, it's like kind of what I'm feeling and kind of where I'm in the
Yeah.
hard space in the moment. So, yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to talk about it outside of those that read
Yes.
what was in the fine print.
That's what you said about, you never know. You put your stuff out there. Like we put this podcast down. I'm like, does anybody listen? I don't really know, but I enjoy talking to who I talk to. So, whatever. I'm going to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Okay. So you said, I just remember the thing that last year you wished you could say it was your best year ever. But first, before we get into all that, let's not dive into the deep end first. Tell people about who you are and what you do.
Let's see. Who I am is I'm really an educator. I think like my gift is that I'm really good at teaching really hard concepts, but
Mhm.
simplifying in a way that can be easily understood and applied to life, especially in the world of finance and
Mhm.
money. And then who I coach, teach, and consult are women that are I call rock star women, badass women, powerhouse women. They're usually the breadwinner, primary wage earner, or, just a big significant part of the financials of the family. And they tend to be the ones responsible for the money. And so they feel a lot of pressure, a
Mhm.
lot of sometimes guilt and shame if the money isn't working.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're feeling resentment because this has kind of been landed on her shoulders in her lap. And she just feels like she's working so hard and the finances aren't really growing, relative to how hard she works.
Yep.
So that's, who I work with most. But bottom line, I just love talking about money. That's why you and I enjoy, really talking about life and money and how money affects life and how life affects money. And with the desire where money just isn't a taboo or hard subject for
Yeah,
women to talk about,
exactly.
no matter
So
where you are, no matter where we are in that financial journey.
you and I are exactly the same about that. We have to talk about it. It can't be that thing that's in the back room.
Mhm.
Bring it out. Let's all talk about it in a safe space. You would definitely want to be in a safe space, but especially when you first start talking about it, because you don't want people smashing your dreams or making you feel stupid because of something you did. That's just not what we do.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna go into that. But the other thing about you is you're really into health. You don't just make it's not just about money, it's being healthy in the whole thing and so that you can enjoy the money that you have. You had an
Yeah, well,
experience that smacked you in the face a
yeah.
few years ago.
Yeah, well, just that part of the story is that super successful, both business and finance, but I was burning the candle at both ends and I got really sick. Like my high adrenaline, high stress, high achiever, high performer lifestyle. And really, I was one of the few women that was in an all men room, whatever room that was. And so I was always kind of pushing to be one of the guys and do all that. And it nearly killed me, like literally, it took me out. And so what I realized spending 18 months kind of getting my health back and being to a place where I could like perform again at some capacity, that I just learned like, wow, I wasn't taking care of myself. And I was just using my body and just pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to keep up and outperform. And I just learned that the money is to underwrite the cost of a good life. It's not about the money. It's not chasing money. It's not about more money, more stuff, more things, more status, more, impressing more people. Money's meant to just support us in a way that makes life better and easier and, can cover the cost of our wellness. But we as women have to want the self-care. We want to have to take care of ourselves as opposed to put that on the back burner. So yeah, I just learned the hard way that money is meant to support us. It's not meant to deplete us.
It's not the be all and end all of life. It is to help you have a life that you want to have.
Exactly.
We're 100% on that same page with that. So, you're an investor, you invest in real estate, you invest in yourself. What else? Are you investing in other things, businesses, that kind of thing too? Or is it real estate as your main thing?
Yeah, so part of 2025 that we'll talk about part of the shit show that I went through in 2025. Also in 2025, I wrote a book and I wrote the thing. I spent a year writing it
Okay.
amongst everything else. And what's interesting when I went into 2025, Felicia, I didn't intend to write a book, but this book kind of just channeled through me and it was heavy lifting to write this thing. But what came out of me that I wasn't intending to write was this book on real estate investing, and I'll be publishing it now here in early 2026.
Okay.
But it's not about how to be a real estate investor. I tell my life journey of investing in real estate to build wealth and how it created financial freedom. And I tell it through this lens of all these houses I've bought and sold, and the houses tell the stories of how they came to be as part of my portfolio and what they ended up supporting or doing. And one of those examples, just as kind of relative to what we've talked about so far, is one investment that I made in real estate. Again, I was just buying real estate and I ended up selling it to save my life. And so part of the story in this book, there's so many stories like that, that real estate ended up being just such as it wasn't about investing to get rich, even though, yes, I wanted to build freedom and do all the things. But just how, as an investor in owning real estate and houses, are woven into this story that had I not bought that one property, that I probably wouldn't be here today because I wouldn't have had the resources that were in that, that thing that allowed me to sell it and pay for my healthcare.
Mhm.
But so I ended up writing this book about real estate investing, told through the story of the houses, where you learn how to invest in real estate by learning by these houses telling you kind of the whole story of how it came to be. And, but I also talked about, I didn't, I wasn't smart enough, 15, 20 years ago to go into this intentionally, but reflecting back, what I did was that I did this, what I called this twin engine approach. And this twin engine approach was like you can fly a single engine plane and you can get from A to B wherever you're going, but it's a little riskier. One engine goes out, you don't have that second engine. And
One
and
is
so yeah. And you can probably, wherever you're getting, you can get there faster, there's more power and blah, blah, blah. So what I've done over the last not quite 20 years, but let's just, make it even, is I've been an entrepreneur and built businesses.
Mhm.
And I've, studied business and been successful at business. Like, you were a successful doctor. And I was just I was successful at business. And while I did that, while I built my career in businesses, at the same time, I was just buying real estate. And
Mhm.
again, it wasn't like this mindset of just invest and get rich and create financial freedom. It was more just this two-prong approach of work hard, make good money, build my businesses, live a good life, and invest in real estate at the same time. And
Okay.
those two things working over the same time for almost 20 years now turned into this kind of synergistic relationship by these two together, not separate, but together, that
Yeah.
ended up creating like, just a lot of wealth through those two things. And so, I talk about that in the book that again, I'll be publishing. But that's what I've done. I've been kind of an entrepreneur, business owner, and investor at the same time without ever considering myself an investor. Like, how we give
I
ourselves
understand.
labels or identities. I
Yeah,
never, and the
I
reason
understand.
why, even though I've been very successful at real estate investing, people would ask me about it all the time. And I would share my 2 cents here and there. But if you would have ever said, like, Krisstina, will you write a book about real estate investing? I'd be like, I don't know what to write. Like, I've
Yeah.
just kind of done it because I never identified as an investor, but just realizing like investing is just kind of a way of life. Like,
Yeah.
it just needs to be built in, and where we can like learn that as opposed to trying to go be an investor per se. It's just kind of, again, it just becomes kind of this natural thing that we do.
I like that. I like that. And the other thing about investing is that there can be some downside to it. It doesn't always go well, even though what we hear in people wanting to sell you their courses, wanting to sell you that real estate is a thing, be an investor, be an investor, be an investor. And I clearly heard you say you were investing, but you didn't identify yourself as an investor.
Mhm,
Talk about some of the rough stuff, because I know I have people investing and I have people who want to invest and they think everything is safe.
mhm,
It's all safe, and I was like, "No, everything has a risk." And it's just like when I'm talking to somebody about surgery, I sometimes think they just think you're telling them that because you have to tell them that, not because it ever happens.
mhm,
And I'm like, "You guys," I'm saying, especially when I'm talking about vasectomy, it's like, "Every single thing I'm about to tell you that can happen has happened to at least one person I've done this procedure on. So this does happen."
mhm.
And it seems like it makes them perk up a little bit. This happens. So I want people to hear from us the ugly, the downside, how you have to kind of bounce back. There's some resilience in investing, especially investing in real estate, investing in everything. You have to have resilience and figure out ability to be able to come through some of the ick.
Yes.
So your newsletter last year talked about it started out to be your best year ever in 2025, and that's not what turned out to be at the end of it.
Yeah, and
So
it ended
you're
up
still
being kind of
here,
a,
so
yeah,
you
it
learned
ended up
what
being
you
a little,
learned, right?
yeah, it ended up being a little bit of a shit show, or maybe a big one. Well, first of all, when it comes to risk, so to build wealth, the kind of wealth where you're intentionally working to build wealth, there's no such thing as building wealth without risk.
Mhm.
So I think that's why a lot of people don't build wealth because they can't, I don't know, stomach or, just the fear of the risk keeps them from investing.
Yeah.
So that's just part of it, that if you really want to build wealth, it comes with risk. There's no short track, there's no magic penny, and there's nothing that's risk free. If anybody sells risk free, it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, somewhere down
Right,
there.
it's not real,
It's
exactly.
not real. But there's levels of risk. And, you could put all your market money in the stock market and then the stock market crashes. Like, even though that's maybe one of the safest places to put it, it still comes with risk. There's
With
no
risk.
guarantee. But
Yeah.
there's a range of risk. And if you're going to create any type of financial freedom, retire with any type of real money, the only way to do it, if you're not getting a trust fund or you're not, be going to be bequeathed some amount of money from parents or grandparents, then money has to be invested. So that's just one of the universal laws, is that you have to invest your money if you're ever going to have enough money in the future. Period. End of story.
End of story. And just to say that if you inherit it, somebody took a risk somewhere for you
Yes.
to be able to inherit that money. So it's there. It's just built into the system. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the let's say least risky ways to invest. Well, I kind of could have to say that with a caveat, but it's 401k or an IRA, meaning it comes with risk, but the risk there is you're abdicating your
True.
responsibility and giving it to your employer to invest for you.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're paying really high fees for somebody else to invest the money for you one way or another. You think
Let
you're
me
not,
just say
yeah,
one thing right here real quick, because we are not giving you financial advice.
yeah,
We are having a conversation, and if you think that your 401k is the best way to invest, please, or some other thing is the best way to invest, you have to talk to your own financial people or go with your own intuition or talk to somebody. Don't go from this podcast and doing something financial and
yes, we are
your
not
story.
financial
We are
advisors.
not
No, we're
financial advisors. Okay. I
We
had to
just
put
have
that
our
in
own
there.
take. Yes, thank you. Yes, yes. Very good. Very important. But I mean, but that's why you do a 401k, is so that the money's put away. A portion of your paycheck is put away by your employer so that it can be invested in the market somewhere. And, you get that in the form of some retirement. So the money is being invested. And then, if you want to, let's say, invest in the stock market that tends to be lower risk, if risk is your thing, then a way to do that for yourself as opposed to have your employer do it for you is you could just go invest in index fund. Go open a Vanguard account or Wealthfront account And it's really smart AI and algorithms. It will ask you some questions and will advise where to put your money.
Okay.
And you let that grow for 20, 30, 40 years, and it can turn into a substantial amount because the monies are indexed and it will grow. You just have to stay consistent for 30, 40 years and put the money in and be an investor in the sense that since your employer's not taking it out of your paycheck, you have to take it out of your paycheck and do it for yourself. Typically, it's going to be lower risk than other types of investments. But again, stock market could crash tomorrow, but it's low fees. And so because you're doing that for yourself as opposed to your employer, the fees tend to be lower because you're doing the work. You're not abdicating it to somebody else because somebody has to get paid to do all that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on one side of the risk profile. And then there's all the way to really risky investments that many people might invest in. But bottom line, and real estate is probably somewhere in the middle of, but a lot of times it's kind of risk reward, but everything has a caveat. But that's just it. The point to your story is, I mean, to what you're saying is that no investment is risk free, and real estate is certainly not risk free.
Mhm.
So while being an investor of 20 years, I mean, I've lost my ass on some deals here and there. Like they're not guaranteed. I've made bad decisions. I was an investor and I didn't understand depreciation and got a huge tax bill that really knocked me out one year. So there's a lot of, don't know that can bite your ass.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I bought a lot of real estate in 2007 and then there's a 2008 crash and I was underwater like within 12 months of thinking, I was going to be, a rich rock star because all my properties were going up. So timing factors in. But yeah, it's just, I think to make that point before I get into 2025, there's always risk. I think that's what you're
There's
trying to say.
Yes, 100%, and all the things we talked about, there's in your decision on the risk you can take, you have to number 1, why am I investing? Am I investing for the end game to and if your end game is retirement and living a life at that point, or do you want money all along? There's just different you invest differently depending on your why, and I have so many people just wanna invest without I was like, "Okay, but why?" And they're like, "I don't because I wanna make money." Okay, we already went through that. Money is not the end of the game. There's always a deeper why. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So you have to know why you're investing. So and that will help guide you in your where you're gonna go, and then you know your risk tolerance, and you have all there's a lot to figuring out what you're gonna invest. It's not just starting to throw money at things. Bottom.
Exactly. And that's why, like, I love what you do, Felicia, is having a space where women can work with you to be asked those types of questions so that based on how they answer them by being asked in the first place, they can maybe make better choices for what works for their why.
Exactly, exactly. All right. So you talked a little bit about losing you what we both lost in the collapse in 2008, 2009. That was just the ugliness. And I've been in a Ponzi scheme. There's just been so much crap that it's just like, oh my gosh. And I still want to invest in real estate and business. It doesn't stop it. It just makes you do things differently and pay more attention. Like, yeah, that really hurt. Go.
I
It
mean,
was
that's just part of it. It just in this part of this conversation, Felicia, is that everyone I know, now including you, that have said this to me, all of us that have been successful investors investing, like we've wound up with a really nice net worth, that
Mhm.
might probably much higher than the average net worth out there
Yeah.
and get to live off the income that net worth provides. We've all made bad choices. You're smart. You're an MD for goodness sakes. Like they don't get smarter than a doctor. I'm decently smart, not your level smart, but you've got my smarts. And, I've been kind of an investor and business and all the things for 20 years. Like so and been successful. And in 2017, I put $150,000 into a Ponzi scheme.
Mm.
So that's part of the risk. There's some really good characters out there that have all the right things to say. Now, my intuition told me not to. I lost 150K just like
Yeah,
5 years ago on a
yeah,
Ponzi scheme. I have put money into businesses where, I mean, they were just, I don't know, Same
spending
thing, had
money.
all the things to say, and I lost my ass because I fell for the narrative, even though I looked for the numbers and the spreadsheets and did my due diligence. So again, all of this comes with risk, but over the timeline, the risk gets eaten up by all the wins. The losses get eaten up by the wins. When you just keep
Yep.
learning, apply it, okay, won't do that again, learn that lesson. And the $150,000 loss got built into, the millions of dollars of gain.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it's the risk, yes, but to understand that the losses are part of the overall gain. It's kind of built
Okay.
into the recipe.
I agree. I agree. And those $150,000 losses are painful lessons, but they are the lessons you remember. It is just like, ouch, got it. Thank you. Moving on.
Moving on, and I lost another 150,000. No, I lost 250, no, 200 in crypto. I got really into crypto when it was a crypto craze before the
Uh-huh.
crypto, was a craze. And so I got in and I thought it was really smart. I did all these things. And I put my money into BlockFi and BlockFi went bankrupt and I lost 200 grand in BlockFi. And it's just like, and looking back, I was so dumb to do that. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just buying into all the hype and blah, 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 blah. But again, it's still those losses are still wrapped into lots of lessons
Yep.
and,
Yep.
but I'm still sitting in pretty good shape even with those losses. So I just like to say that you can't go into investing trying to avoid losses. You go into
That's beautiful.
investing with as much due diligence and intelligence and coaching and knowledge as possible, but you can't go in thinking there will never be a loss. Like, I don't know, that will probably bring you more universal losses if
Yeah,
that's the mindset going
I
in.
agree. When you have a loss, this is I wanna just go there because what do you do? Do you hide it? Obviously not. You're out here telling everybody now, and it's do you- or do how do you your initial reaction? Is it to go talk to somebody, or is it to, "Right, let me pull myself in"? How do you go with your initial reaction when you find out, I'm gonna swear, you guys, fuck, I just lost a bunch of money here." And it's not even for me, it wasn't even lost the money, it's like, "What did I do?" Yes, the money's gone, but it's a different feeling. It's the money doesn't seem to be the biggest hurt. While it is painful, it's the decision I made to invest with that person that I didn't see their thing. That I think that's what's my thing. What do
Yeah, same. I mean, I'll go into that's a good segue into the 2025 is kind of there was the loss and then there's the feelings that, just all the kind of the other feelings that I work through at the same time. For me, I mean, I just go in my deep dark hole for, a week or so, whatever that is, and
Yeah,
then
that's
figure out, okay, how do I get myself out of this one? What do I need to do?
yeah.
And then, just then a year later, it's just kind of part of the ocean and I don't think about it anymore. But that's really what I do. But anyway, so 2025.
I suspect, though, you don't go in your hole first, because I think first you figure out, "What am I gonna do to fix this thing?" And then we might go into our hole later to figure out
Yeah, yeah.
the
Well,
others.
yeah. So what happened to me in 2025 is that I put $1 million in a deal in Texas, and it was meant I bought a piece of property and I went in with the business partner where I was putting up the capital and he was going to build the structures and it was
Okay.
going to be a kind of a small townhome, like not they're going to be townhomes because it'll be 3 units, lakefront property in Texas, beautiful piece of property. Again, so I put in $1 million capital. He was going to do the build, and then we were going to flip it in a few years, and then we're going to split the profits. So and this was somebody I knew for 20 years. I mean, this was a
Okay.
long-term
You
relationship.
you didn't just
And
pull them off the street. You
yeah,
did
yeah, yeah. So right. So that all went in. That all was okay. But this is where I just like to say, especially as women, and maybe men too, but just as women, like what he did is he came to me I don't know, about a year into the process, he hadn't started building yet, even though and I was kind of doing my own thing. I trusted him, so I wasn't paying attention.
Mhm.
I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't paying attention. My intuition was saying, maybe I should maybe see what's going on. But I'm like, no, he's got it. I don't need to be that person that feels like I'm going to be micromanaging this or something.
Okay.
That's part of my personality. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
was kind of like, seems like, I don't know, something should be started by now, but didn't do anything, even though my intuitions tell me to check in. And then he comes and he says, so this is kind of just post COVID where property values are really starting to go up and you can sell anything and so on and so forth. So he comes to me and says, Krisstina, I have this flip that I want to do, and I will pay you 20% of this flip if you let me use our property and use it for collateral for this other flip. You don't have to
Okay.
do anything, but it's a great deal. It's a no-brainer. And I'm going to go do this and I'll have your money back. I'll have the 20% that I'll pay you for allowing me to borrow against the property you basically own. And you'll have that back and the lien will be removed within 12 months. It's an easy flip. So then that was the promise. My intuition's like, this doesn't really feel right. Probably doesn't sound good, but I've known him for 20 years. I'm sure this is fine. He knows what he's doing. There'll be some extra cash, that easy 20%, which was this decent amount of money. So it's just kind of free money in my pocket by just allowing him to use this property for collateral that I put
Okay.
this $1 million in.
Okay.
For
Okay.
money
Got it.
demand. So 12 months goes by. I check in. Any chance? How's it going? 18 months goes by, checking in, don't really hear back from him. And of course, I'm like, he says something like, oh, yeah, things are fine, blah, blah, blah. About 20 months, then I'm walking my dog at night and he calls. And Felicia, I'm thinking he's calling, tell me it finally sold, everything's worked out, and I'm going to get my money that he promised. But more importantly, this lien's going to be taken off the property and we can start construction and finally get this project off the ground.
Okay.
But instead, he calls and says, I have some bad news. The flip that I did, I just went bankrupt. They took the property, or they haven't taken it, but I'm going bankrupt. And it's a hard money loan. And they are going to foreclose on your property that I had the $1 million in 30 days. If I'm out of money, if you can't pay like $30,000 in back interest payments that I'm defaulting on, and about $50,000 of back taxes that I haven't paid. And it's like, I think the interest only payment was like 8 grand a month, and you need to start taking over payments, and it's interest only, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, he
And
just
this was
dumped into my lap and said, I'm out and your $1 million is gone unless you can pay them back all this back money and stay current on the interest payments. And the balloon on that is due like in 60 days. So one day I'm walking my dog, and the next minute I have to come up with like $150,000 cash, take over these $8,000 a month payments, and have to be able to pay off this balloon payment in the tune of $600,000 in like 45 days. So it was a bad day. And I didn't know how I was going to get out from under this. I couldn't sleep for about a week thinking, do I lose $1 million or do I figure out how to come up with all this cash, make these payments, refinance, and take on another, $600,000 loan? So it's like, do I spend 600, like, I guess 750,000 to save $1 million, or do I just let the million go? So, it just was
yeah,
so
there's a
stressful,
lot of
Felicia.
things
Like,
that
I didn't know,
yes.
and nobody can save me. There wasn't anybody else to talk to. This was my deal. I had to figure it out. And it was just one of those situations. And so that's part A. Part B was the feelings. There was the stress of losing that amount of money, all the stuff that's just the financial stuff that I talked about. But the feelings were, I was so mad at myself by not trusting my gut. I was mad at myself by not pushing more when I just was trying to be a nice person and not be the one that's like asking where my money is all the time.
Mhm, mhm.
I felt so kind of taken advantage of because he could have told me 9 months before whatever, and he didn't. I just
Yeah.
felt like, wow, I was so taken advantage of. I felt kind of disrespected. I just all these feelings just flooded me. So it's this financial shit show of like really like a million. Literally a million, 1 million, two, about ready to be lost.
Mhm.
And then two, all these other feelings that I was experiencing that was just, like, real emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really brutal, and it took everything I had to try to figure it out, and I did because we
Yeah.
do, but it wasn't easy going. It was definitely took everything that I had to make it work out.
That so much there. So the feeling part is where I think we can sometimes get stuck in, or we push it down because we gotta figure out this financial thing, and then we never come back to that feeling thing to let that all come through, and then we keep that and there's so much in that whole thing. This person who was somebody you trusted for 20 years, who now has you're like, "Oh my gosh, okay." You got through the financial part of it. You figured it out. You got it all settled out. Did you lose 1,000,000 or did you decide to let it go or did you save it all?
I saved it all, and, the thing about real estate is with time, it always works out
Mm,
because real estate always goes up over time. So if you can get over the hump
you get the time. If you can
and have the time. So, my net worth went down by $600,000 because I had to take out a loan to be
yeah,
able to pay back these hard money loans, and basically, to take over the loan that he couldn't in order to get the lien off my property to
yeah.
save the million. So, you know, numbers wise, I justified it in different ways. But what it took me is Felicia, I called probably 100 banks.
Mm,
So it's like just, do what you have to do. But I mean, I was calling the banks. I called different friends, like, do you know a banker? Or I need a commercial loan. And I had just bought another piece of property. So I didn't have the resources to get a traditional loan, for example, and just all the stuff. But it's just like one of those things and just figured it out and worked with attorneys and got everything legally structured. And there was some silver lining also because he owned 25% of the property, which was part of this agreement. So part of this is now I own 100% of it.
yeah.
So, you can factor that in. And again, the the property, I'll figure it out. I won't make as much money as I thought I was going to, but
Mhm.
it will work out as long as I can, hold all this for the next 5 years or so.
Yeah,
The numbers will kind of fill back in.
yeah. So, dealing with the emotional part of it, how did you have you work through all of that and letting and forgiving yourself for the things you didn't listen to yourself on so that because I feel like when we keep all that stuff in, we ultimately become physically ill, which you've already done that once before. So, how did you take care of yourself so that that's not carried with you in the future?
You know, Funny enough is that by telling the truth about what happened, by having these types of conversations, by putting it in my newsletter, I have, good friend networks. And when they said, how was 2025? I said, it was a shit show. I got my ass handed to me. And,
Yeah.
blah. So I don't know, just talking about it and being able to just like, and what's been interesting about that is others been like, man, I got my ass handed to me too. Or I went through a similar experience last year. So I think just not holding it in and be keeping the embarrassment. And I teach this stuff. Like there's the embarrassment. Like I'm the coach. I'm the quote unquote expert and I did this. Like,
Yeah.
how is that going to sound to the world if I'm honest about it? But I think it's
Yep.
so easy to pretend. So for me, what's been cathartic is just being really open and honest about it. And, for those that have asked, and I know it's all going to work out in the long run. And I learned lessons. I learned some really good lessons that I've touched that stove and I know what not to do in the future. Hard lesson, but lesson
That listening
nonetheless.
to that listening to intuition can be difficult, and I think we were talking about this before we came on. Why is that so difficult? We know when something's not going as we think it should. It may not be wrong, it might not be whatever, but it's just like, I need to check in, and us not wanting to be I'm like you, I don't wanna be that person that micromanager. I don't want you to think I don't trust you. I don't want you to and then we end up where we end up
Yeah.
sometimes. It's like, yeah, these things. Oh my.
Yeah, the intuition is a really big part of I mean, it's so hard to trust the intuition, but I have to when I think back on where I've lost the biggest amount of monies with like business investments, I invested in the wrong person and they were just con people and really
Mhm.
great at con. And Sadly, I'm very trusting, and so I'm connable. Like, I'm less connable than I was when I was younger, but I
Me
have
too.
to be
Yes.
very, very aware that I'm an easy con. I shouldn't say that on air probably, but
But you wanna I wanna trust you. I trust everybody first, and then when you prove you can't be trusted, then I don't trust you, but I might lose a lot of money waiting because I trusted you. Like,
exactly, well, I'm the same. So, yes, sister, like, gotcha. Like, I'm with you. But my intuition always knew, like, it didn't feel right, but my logic and believing what the other person said and my kind of tendency just trust first and ask questions later. So all those things. But yeah, our intuition when it comes to investing and just making really important decisions, I think we know, like we really know, but we don't listen to it because it's hard because it's your intuition. I mean, we've got all this brain smarts that we think should know better.
I actually this last year, I actually was we were in a deal. I have a business partner. We were in a deal. We'd been in like 3 months we were working on this thing, and all of a sudden I was like, "I don't think we should do this." And she looked at me like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I think there's another property over here. I think we should go for that one. I think but this is that." I was like, "I've never felt like this before. I've
Mhm,
never felt like this before." And we ultimately did with some stress, but we ultimately were able to let it go, and it's like, now I think about it's like, I wonder what would have happened if we had have kept that. It's like, don't think about
yeah.
that. You felt like you should let it go, so you did.
Yeah.
Then bad happened. The world didn't end because you walked away from it. We have to learn, I think, as women, that intuition means something. Why is it hard to listen to? Because it's not what we've been taught to listen to, but it tells us a lot. And
Mhm,
even if it's like, oh, huh, maybe I better pay attention to that. I don't have to necessarily walk out the deal, but let me figure out where I need to mitigate because this is telling me there's some things coming up.
mhm. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I just love that you just walked away with it and trusted it because I just think we get these communications and it's just like, all right, got it. For whatever reason, it's not feeling right. And I don't need to question it or double check it. I'm just going to go with it. And that's where I want to get better at, where I'm just like, and maybe I lose the money and maybe it was the wrong intuition, but it's like, I'm just going to trust it because 99% of the time, 100% of the time so far has been right.
It's like,
So, I mean, maybe
let me just try trusting this for
I
a
know.
minute. It's like instead of trying to think through it and
Exactly.
something just what will happen if that's a that's like what will happen? That's what we were talking about earlier. If we just trusted our intuition and just said, yeah, I don't think that's the right thing for me.
Mhm.
It's gonna be stressful at first. I know it's gonna be stressful at first to do that because that's not what we do. We think
Well,
through it, figure it out, da 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 da, and may ultimately come to that same decision when we could have just said, Was not wasted that time." It's like, "Yeah, no, that doesn't work."
yeah, and I think our intuition's a mix of just kind of a subconscious inner knowing that our intuition picks up on, combined with a lot of wisdom and
Yeah.
experience
Yep.
from, being in business or medicine or, whatever for 20, 30 years. And
Yep.
there's just a lot of wisdom built in that is deep inside of our knowing that isn't like ready at our prefrontal cortex necessarily.
Yeah. That's so good. So, what are you doing this year? Publishing your book. I'm excited to get your book.
Yeah,
When's
thank
that
you. Yeah.
when's that gonna come out?
I'm hoping like in April, so give me enough time. But like what you and I are talking about, so what Felicia and I were talking about off air before we press the record button is that I'm trying a different approach this year. I got my ass handed to me in 2023 as we discussed. Business is really hard in 2023 also. Just things pivoted, things that didn't work for 10 years, wasn't working anymore from marketing and sales and different things. Like 2025 was a pivotal year. I think waking up, I don't know what it was, but 2026, I'm going into it with just more ease.
Mm,
More like really looking at, 2026 is going to be my great experiment because my entire life, I've been a hard worker. I kind of just crush, crush things because I work so hard and I
yeah.
am strategic and I am good at business and I put a lot of power and force and intention and all this stuff to succeed. And again, it's worked, I guess, overall. But I'm not traveling like you, Felicia, to 10 countries a year. I still put in a lot of hours to push the boulder up the hill. So 2026, I'm going into this with a mindset of intuition, ease. I'm studying really ancient spiritual works about like stoicism and just kind of the emerald tablets. And, people call it woo, but I actually think if there's so much ancient wisdom that if we study these kind of universal laws and principles and kind of just apply them in a way that we don't have to like struggle so hard at success, at producing certain outcomes. So that's what I'm doing. 2026, I'm going to publish my book. I'm going to work into it. I'm trying to let go of this really highly productive super performer energy and just kind of get into more flow and ease by studying the tablets and studying more spiritual. I'm seeing how I can blend more spiritual and business
Mhm,
together in
mhm.
more of a feminine type of way versus
Yeah,
Christina being really successful in a masculine kind of go get 'em, conquer the world type of
yes,
energy. So I don't
yes.
know. We'll see. We'll report back at the end of 2026 and see if my great experiment was a great success or, if I went down with my ship. So anyway, we'll see.
Even if the money goes down, I have a feeling we, because 'cause I'm in this with you, is to will be much more relaxed and healthy, and the money's gonna take care of it. So I think if those
That
2
always
things happen, relaxing into money, relaxing into the whole thing, it just feels like a much more natural way to do it as opposed to the way we've been taught. And I was just talking to my daughter about this conquer everything. If I can't have it, then it has to be mine. I can't share it. Just that whole, I don't know. I'm tired of patriarchy and the whole, I'm tired of saying those words because I don't want everything to seem like it's a male female thing, but it's the way our world has been and that everything is about us, about you, about the individual. And let's become a lot more collaborative in the whole thing and how we can work together and everybody can have enough.
Mhm.
Everybody can have enough.
Everybody can have enough. I was talking to a friend of mine and she is really successful. She's built, 20, $30 million company. And I knew her when she was just got her first SBA loan to get a loan for her first space and her first
Okay.
thing. And she's over the last 20 years, she's built it into this incredible business. Same thing like what we're talking about. And she said, based on the study she's been doing, that she's kind of my role model for this, what you and I are talking about, is that she said, when I changed my mindset and started applying these things, my business just got easier and I started making more money. Like, so she said, for me, it's work. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm following in her footsteps because I'd like it to be with more ease and less kind of productive, long hours, hard work for the business success. And, but one thing she said, because these last 2 years, she's been all in and kind of really studying this ancient wisdom and blah, blah, blah. And she's traveled to Egypt and Peru and these different locations just to study from some of these ancient, leaders. Anyway, all that she said, coming into kind of this new, it's kind of the year of the horse and this, what's happening and the reason 2025 kind of played out for so many people. She said, it's interesting, like, yes, it's been this patriarchy for, you know, centuries, if not
Ever.
thousands
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
And she said, and then women have kind of been fighting hard for a space and a place. And she said, but what we're coming into next, this is what she says based on her studies. So I'm curious if I'm going to learn some of the same things. But it's really coming in 2026 is this blend of where we as women, like powerful women, it's this blend of like the king and queen get to sit at the table together.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
one's not pushing the other down. Like,
Okay.
men have kind of kept women down and women have come to try to keep men down, like this
Yeah.
whole play out.
Yeah.
And she said, that's had to happen. Like it's had to play out that way. Like even for we as women to be like, I'm not gonna, I'm in the fight, you don't.
Yeah.
But now because that's all played out, we get to be in this different energy where we as women, we can be women and powerful. And men can be men and be powerful, and neither one of us have to we both
Mhm.
get to sit at the table in our own king and queen type energies. So I
Yeah.
really love that. I thought that feels good just to be able to be more in whatever, I don't like the word feminine necessarily, but I think you know what I mean. Like in
Yeah.
this
I
way, following our intuition and doing things with grace and ease and not thinking that that isn't powerful
that
and still be
that there's something
successful.
wrong because we're
Yeah.
not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being respected for it.
Mhm.
Having the king side, respecting that this is where we are and this is how we do business, and us respecting that, how they do and think, and figuring out that those 2 things are needed for this whole planet to advance. And it's just
Exactly. Yeah.
getting deep here, you guys. We're
I know. We're just laying it out there what we're right, what we're talking about exactly. And I don't know, like it just feels right. Like it just to me, I'm really like part of kind of sum up all that. 2026 is really going into what feels aligned, like really getting into more of my feeling space. Like I'm really strong mentally. You are too. I've been more this kind of push my emotions down and just, done what I've done.
pouring
So
through
yeah,
them.
that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna really play out this year like going in and being guided there while studying and kind of infusing this next phase of my business, my career, me, and see how it plays out.
So much fun. How can people follow this? Follow your journey of this year?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is the first time I've talked about this too. Like everything else has kind of been in my own journal. So thank you for maybe if everybody's listening, be like, oh my God, like what the hell are they talking about? But that's not why I'm on this
Yeah, that's
podcast.
the other thing. We're not gonna care what you think about it. This
That's
is what
true
we're
too.
doing. You do your thing.
That's
Come
right.
join us or go do your thing the way you think. It's like it doesn't matter. We're all gonna get to
Exactly.
where we need to be.
Exactly. But that's a good question. So what I did kind of the last quarter of 2025, I started writing this newsletter that you wrote.
Mhm.
So that's probably what I'm going to be doing is just kind of sharing the journey through my writing and my blog. So I enjoy writing.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you something, Felicia, in the show notes to put in just if you want to sign up for my newsletter.
Okay. All right, you guys. So you're gonna have to go to the show notes. We gotta, we weren't prepared for that. Just
Yeah.
this is how we're gonna go this year. It's gonna
Exactly.
flow.
We're going to
So
flow.
You want to sign up for the newsletter. If you I'm just telling you, just do it. Go to the show notes. Krisstina Wise, this is the episode. I don't know when it's coming out, but it'll be out. And once you start listening, get back in there, sign up, get the show notes, sign up for her newsletter so you can keep up with what's going on. I'm gonna ride this ride with Christina. I think it's gonna be so much fun. So much
I'm
fun.
excited.
Yes,
And
I'm gonna be
I'm gonna find myself next to you on a plane seat going to one of these fabulous countries. So
yes. So
that's on that's now on my goal sheet for 2026.
I was looking at all the different currencies I have. I have them all laid out on my table. It's like, "Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to travel. Look, this is happening. You've got money from all these countries, and this is you guys, this has been my dream forever to travel, and I am doing it, and I'm telling you, I'm having a good time. I
But
really am.
let me reverse this on you, Felicia. What was the mindset shift to that, where you're saying, I'm leaving medicine, it's been my whole career, I'm gonna travel more, I'm gonna be doing this work. That's a big pivot and shift to let go. That's been your whole identity in life. And so I'm just curious, like what's your 2026 and what's been the mindset shift that's opened up this does, like where the limiting mindset's like, I can't be successful and travel and be a doctor or do these different things. What was the shift that you've traveled to all these countries over the last couple years and you're walking away from medicine the way you've been practicing it? I'm really curious.
It hasn't been a all at once by any stretch of the imagination. Back in 2018, I started working less. I started working part-time, and it's been, since 2018, however many years ago that was, I've just gradually decreased, decreased, decreased. I had 1 year where I barely did any work, medicine, and then I went back. I came back, a friend of mine asked me to come and help him in his group, in his practice here where I am now in Lawton, and I was gonna do it for 4 months, and now it's been 3 years. So, it came to honestly, it's like, I will be doing this forever unless I just say one day I'm gonna quit. And last year, actually, I met a guy who lives in a different country. That's what happened. And that's how I started traveling. It's like, okay, we're having a hard time getting a visa for him to come to the US. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go there. And then we started traveling together. And so that's how all, and it's like, Yeah, you never know how it's gonna play out, but it's
Never
what I
know.
wanted. It's not what I thought it was gonna look like. Just like, "Well, get over yourself. This is what it looks like, and are you having fun?" I'm having a lot of fun. So, it really was not a one day done, except for this after the gradual breakdown, gradual weaning off. Now it's like, "Okay, I'm done."
That's great. Well, congratulations.
I'm scared, I'm excited, I'm all the things. It's like, I think I'm more excited than scared, but scared comes in every once in a while.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
how this plays out. And I'm gonna relax and figure out what's next. My wealth be hers is my thing. Where women having the financial ability to walk away is just every time I think about it, it's like I can't walk away from that. That's my what I'm here for. That's what I
Mhm.
feel like I'm here for. So figuring out how to bring that into the world in a bigger way, that's where I am right now. It's like, what do I want that to look like at the end of this year, at the end of 5 years? What is that? Yeah, that's where I am.
Awesome.
It's so much fun. So I'm so happy to really, really talk to you, even though it feels like we talk. I don't, so weird that it feels like we talk. Okay. Anyway, I will talk to you again very soon. So I really want to really be a part of this group that you've got going on. And we're going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you really got something out of this because I got something out of it. It really makes me feel good to share these things. And you want to get in rooms, you want to be with people, you want to be with a community where you can talk like this, where you can not be afraid for people to hear or for that people aren't gonna shame you or look at you in a weird way because you lost something. It is how you get through it.
Mhm.
Says, "This is how I got through this, is talking about it." So, let's get through it together, you guys. Come on,
Let's
we
do
got
it.
this.
All right, we're gonna be doing a re at the same time next year to see how both of our kind of a new life adventures play out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. See you guys next week.
All right, bye.